All right. Well, first off, I'd like to thank you for doing this interview with the Hype Magazine tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're super excited for this opportunity. Can you tell the fans and listeners who you are and where you're from?
I'm from Pharr, Texas, which is literally as far as you can get. It's literally we're 5 minutes from the frontera de Mexico, which is literally about I can literally drive in my car over there and get there in 3 minutes, Reynosa, Tamaulipas. So I'm by the frontera of Mexico.
Now,
Texas is what it is.
so you're from Texas. What made you want to become a poet in the first place, and create these amazing works of art we're going to highlight tonight for you?
Man, so I was part of the industry for a while. I also had the pleasure, God rest his soul, Insane Wayne. I worked really closely with Insane Wayne.
Wow.
And he always used to be the one to push me to tell you. He would be like, yo, sis, like, you do all this stuff for other people. Like, have you ever considered of maybe doing a book or doing something, more poetic, just stuff that you yourself like? Because I was always writing lyrics for other people, right? And
Okay. Yeah.
it
So
wasn't
you're a writer, okay?
Yeah, so it wasn't really my thing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, in none of my poetry, you can kind of hear it. It wasn't my thing to do all that stuff. So I was like, you know what? Maybe you're right. I'll do it one day. And I just said, you know what? After unfortunately I lost him and he passed, I was like, you know what? It's time to publish. Like I have to push. I have to shove. I have to push.
Okay.
And so I started writing. I've been writing now for about 17 years. As a writer, period. I've worked for companies like Telemundo. I did infomercials for Telemundo, scripting for Telemundo, and stuff of that nature. So I've always been obsessed with you telling a story, right? And other people can connect to the story, or whether it's something that they've been through or something they might want to get into. And you're like that little push for them the way that I was too pushed, right? So that's what it is. I love to write. Rhymes is my thing. I love rhyming. Everything to do with rhymes, I love.
So you said you were. So were you an artist first? Or, like you said, you were in the industry, writing for people. So how did you get started with that in the first place? How did you get that opportunity?
Yeah, so there is a guy back in the day down here. I used to part own a club down here. And it was pretty cool. It was really neat. It was a really like fun little hip hop spot. And it was real underground. Like I would do a lot of B-boy events. I'm real old school B-boy. And I brought in Supernatural. We had invited Supernatural to the show. We used to do B-Boy City in Austin. So it was like I was falling in love with the art and the art itself, like the hidden gem of the art when it comes to the industry, like the graffiti. And when it came to people saying, I've always kind of been in love with the storytelling, right? Like B-boys, they tell a story with just their footwork and up rock and all this cool stuff. And you're like, man, that guy just told him off. But you don't really know it until you know it, right? And you feel it like, oh my God, it's about to get real crazy right now. Like he just did that, And so that's what got me into it. I've been doing PR. I was in public relations for a long time. I part owned a club. So I converted the club into like the hip hop scene at the time. Because down here, you're from the frontera de Mexico. We didn't really have the hip hop scene down here like we wish we would have had it, because it's more like banda regional, conjunto tejano, because we're in the frontera. So being that, man, we kind of had to make our own little stuff happen. And so I fell in love with that, telling the stories. And so when I started with the industry, it was putting together more hip hop shows. I was bringing in a bunch of people. And then I started bringing in, like, I brought into my old club, like Trey Songz, the Yin Yang Twins, Trina, like all these. And I was always in love with it. So I was like, you know what? It'll be fun to write. And I did do some ghosting for a little while. And then I was just like, you know what? Let me just do it for myself. Let's see how this goes. And I love it. I have fallen in love with this new art. Like, it's kind of my escape. Every time that, you want to tell somebody off or something, you do it, but you do it with a pen in your hand and you're like, and you tell them subliminally, like, what's going on. So I've been doing it for now 13 years. And then the last 7 years I've been publishing. I've published 11 books. I'm working on my 12th.
Congrats. Yeah. Amazing.
Thanks. It's pretty cool. It's a really cool, neat space.
Now going back, you said you started a club in Texas, to open up for hip hop. You see, I got hip hop is 50. So, I'm with you. I love hip hop like that. Yes. What made you take on that risk in the first place? And how did you get the opportunity to start the club?
I had a friend of mine who was down here from Atlanta, and he was like my boss at the time. And he was like, hey, since I was already we were doing something completely different. That was performance contracting. And I was a translator going back and forth to Mexico, to Monterrey, Nuevo León.
Okay.
So he was like, hey, kid, if you have a certain amount of savings, don't waste it. Like, invest into yourself. He had to put me on game. I was born and raised in the hood. So in the hood, you really don't know, like, about financial literacy, and like, hey, you make money and then you just spend money and then you just don't even know where the money went. It's like, poof, it was there for 2 seconds in a split, right? And then he was like, hey, no, you're doing this the wrong way. And he sat me down and he kind of coached me. He mentored me, and he's like, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to partner up. And then that's how we ended up partnering up. It was really cool. He gave me that opportunity. And my thing was hip hop, because I was really obsessed with like Mos Def, Dead Prez, Talib, Supernatural, KRS, like the hip hop, right? And so that was it for me when I started bringing in a couple, and I was like, oh, okay, this works. This really works. It's cool. And then it was just selling out, because again, in that time, this is early 2000s, we didn't really have that hip hop space down here.
Yeah, you had to create it for them. Yeah.
We had to create that for them. And so all my little hip hop friends ended up telling their hip hop friends. By the time you know it, I was just selling out. And there it went.
And you said you went from having the shows to you actually started writing in the industry, and then you had a friend tell you should do the poetry thing. Everybody does poetry. How did you separate yourself to become a world recognized poet? You know what I mean? Like, I want to highlight the transition you did. Like, what did you do to separate yourself?
I feel like I don't know. It was so important for me. Like my culture has always been like that one thing that drives me. Like, I'm Mexicana, I'm Mexican, I'm Tejana, because I'm a Mexican from Texas, so I'm Tejana, right?
Okay. Yes.
And so, and that's what we say. But the thing is, I wanted to find something. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a teacher. She's a librarian. She was like, hey, have you written a book? And I was like, man, you caught me on it, because I was writing my first children's book, which is Amanda the Panda. And it was about self-bullying. And I've always, like I tell you, I've always been overly obsessed with rhyme, just putting it together and it having that click, click, click at the end, and everything goes in motion with it. It was always me. And so I was like, you know what? Let me try this. Like, I'm going to just get away from here and come into this little light and try something differently. And I wrote my first children's book, which is Amanda the Panda. And it did so good. And then I feel when they started taking me, because I did a tour, a book tour down here in Texas, right? I was like, oh my God, like, this is really cool. This is neat. You reach out to kids. I get to do what I love with kids and improv and work with the at-risk kid program, because I'm an at-risk kid myself, right? And so I was expelled 3 times in high school. And then other than the man who did expel me 3 times in high school, actually took me back to the school where I graduated from, which is an at-risk program down here, right? So he's like, hey, I know I let you slip, but now it's time for you to pay back to your community. And that's how it went. That's kind of how it went, to be honest.
Now, you said Amanda the Panda is your first children book. How did you know how to make a book? And I mean, like, everybody, like, you can make but how did you release the book? Did you have a friend or an Inside Connect, or did you self-teach yourself? How did you figure out how to release a book?
I literally self-taught myself. It was pretty amazing. Thank you, man, because you sometimes, and this is really important for me to say, sometimes you'll meet people that along the way, right, in your journey, and then they say, hey, I know how to do this, and that. But it's, hey, but by the way, here's my invoice. It's this, and this. And then you see a lot of little numbers together, and you're like, man. And then you do invest in yourself. And then nothing ever flourishes off of that, because they've lied. And so the good thing was that somebody did lie to me, which was the great part for my journey. The part for me to get it together, to do it myself, was because I had others lie to me, that they were going to help me out, and they were going to say, no, this is how you do it, and this is the go-to, and this is the how-to, and everything. And so since they lied, I had to figure it out. You had to figure it out. So
Yeah, being in this industry, we all have those stories where you're first starting out, you're energetic, you've got ideas, you got all this energy, and they're saying, "Well, I'll help you, but go ahead and put that stack up." And you know, what I mean, it's a matter of, do you want to chase your dream more? But like you said, those moments is where you figure out how to do it yourself, because you paid the stack, and you still got to have the results that you were promised. So you got to sit down and, you know, do that. So I salute you on that. When you did Amanda the Panda for the kids, what was the response like? I'm imagining they didn't have a motivational book yet for them that told it the way you did. So how did the kids respond for you?
That one was just self-bullying. Even as adults, we'll self-bully ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
you can look 100%, you can look A1, you can look super, super, the best you've ever looked. And
Okay.
you're still trying to find a way to be like, oh no, well, this is off, or this is off, and this is off. And of course, due to all these filters and all this junk out there, it's messed up our mental space heavily,
Okay.
right? In the fact that now you do a filter and you're like all cheesy and it's perfect picture, and then you go to HEB or the local supermarket and it doesn't look like you. So it starts messing with your mentality, right?
Yep.
So the book was specifically targeting mental health when it comes to your self-bullying yourself. So I felt like, and it was done mostly for elementary kids, right? And they loved it. And it was really cute. The vibe was really fresh. And when I went into the little tour, everybody was like, no more phone, miss, no more phone, because I talk about it. I speak heavily like, hey, don't make yourself somebody that you don't want to become.
Facts.
That's what it is. Yeah. So that's where
now, do you have other characters in the children's story, or is Amanda the Panda like your main character that you've done?
No, man. So that's not, I've had 3 children's books. The one that has really done really well, thankfully, I even created a national day, which is on my birthday every calendar year, is the National Day of La Chancla. Yes. And so La Chancla, man, La Chancla, I fear La Chancla. My great grandma, she got me with La Chancla 24/7. If you're a Latino, La Chancla is going to come get you. You know it, right? And so it was
for people who's not Latino. What is that? Can we elaborate a little bit in that so we can know?
Yeah, La Chancla is a sandal, the worst sandal you can see grandma handling. And you don't have to be Latino. Like, anybody can just throw you La Chancla. Like, a chancla is just a sandal, and it was the leader of correcting somebody when you were a kid. When you were a youngster, when I was a youngster, and my grandma had the chancla, because all the time women are in the house most of the time when we were younger, and they're walking around in these chanclas, these little sandals, house slippers. Okay. And if you didn't act right, that slipper was going to fly. Yes. It's going to get you, regardless what you are. It's coming for you. And so Mexicans really believe in this tool. I don't know why. It's haunting. It haunts us kids, right? But I know it got me a lot of times. And so when I came back from Brooklyn, because I was living in Brooklyn at the time, when I came back home to Texas, I was like, you know what? I'm talking about La Chancla, and I'm going to let it all out. And so in that story, right now, currently, I'm working into converting it into a short film, animation film with Tubi, which is amazing. Thankfully, thank God. Shout outs to Anki, the director. And so it's just crazy that it was this little story that I was writing one day on my porch, being pregnant with my last child. And my mom was there through the whole thing, right? And my mom had used La Chancla too.
Yeah, so she knew, like, I taught you that. That's
so it was real cute how it unfolded, because I have a couple of characters. El huevo is an egg. And I don't know if you have Latino friends, but let's just say I think you're super good looking. And I'm like, man, he looks really good looking. Lo vas a ojear. You're going to put the bad eye on that guy because he's so good looking, So you want to make sure that you grab the egg, and we call it a santiguada. And you usually pray over the person so that no bad spirit can harm that beautiful looking person, right? And so he made the cut. And then I have a couple of other, like La Llorona, which has already been used before, and El Cucuy, which is the boogeyman, right? So that children's book has done very well. I'm very fortunate, very thankful. I do a lot with that book still to today, especially like a lot of my friends in this area will go and tell me like, hey, come and read to the kids or whatever. It's really cute. You'll be afraid. If I read you The Legend of La Chancla, you're going to not go to sleep tonight. I guarantee you.
Well, I see when you, I can see it for you when you get it done with your story. It'll become like the headless horseman that we sell. You know, we have at Halloween. I could see, you know, all around the world doing that. Like you've got the characters and stuff like that. So I salute you. I know you also help kids publish books. So not only are you a child author and you create these dope stories for them, but you also have gone into helping kids do that. How did you get started with that? And you know, what's the feeling like when the kids are releasing these books with your help?
It's amazing. So the at-risk program where I graduated from is called Biofuel. We call it Biofuel. It's like the Biofuel crew, right? And it's an at-risk alternative center. Usually, you know, you get in trouble sometimes, or you mess up a little. They have to correct you, so they send you there for a little while, right? Yeah. And it's a disciplinary high school, and so we had gotten Mr. Proctor, which is the person that I usually teach with at the time there. He had found a program that got them to be able to do this. So he's like, hey, let's do this for the kids. Let's publish them. And I'm like, I'm all down. I'm for this. Because for them to feel like you can go and write a million books, but if you're not actually inspiring somebody to do a book, then what's your point in writing so many books, you know? So I wanted to also be the person not only to tell them, hey, write stories. I want to help you write the story and get it done from the get-go. And so that's what we did. It was amazing. And then I had a couple of them reach out to me. And I'm right now currently helping another child trying to publish her book on being a single mom because she's 19 with two babies.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's amazing. She's an amazing, phenomenal little child. And I'm just like, I don't know how you do it, kid, but you're doing it, man. And it's amazing. So I love to do that.
It's so amazing with kids. Like kids don't know what they can and can't do until an adult intervenes in their life. Like I was taught that if a kid, you give them a business card. So you tell me, what do you want to grow up when you grow up? You will get older. You say, I want to be a fireman. Well, I'm gonna make you a business card that calls your name. I'm the fireman. And then it allows you that positive reinforcement. So I love that you're helping them create the book. So now they can imagine, not only is it they can have their own book, but now they know what it takes to make their own book. So why can't they take that same skill set that you taught them and do anything else they want now? So like, I really salute you on that, because it's dope to give back to the community the way you do and help your fans like that.
It's, you know, it's also very fulfilling to me. Like it makes me like, damn, like this is really what it is. Like the purpose of you to just make them understand that it's an outlet. Like, you know, we have a lot of mental health illnesses. And so me having anxiety from time to time and stuff, there is this thing that you don't have to be vocal. You don't have to be abusive. You don't have to get upset. You don't have to be crying. You can let it all out on a piece of paper. And you could still have the same energy as you would when you went into a rec room and messed up everything in a room, or vice versa, right? So I feel like kids just, they need that person to tell them like, hey, I get it. I'm there too. We all have our struggles. We all have struggles, no matter how we see it. And so I want them to get it. Like, man, I'm the same. I was you 25 years ago in that seat, being that child that thought that nobody was going to be there for me, you know? So that's what it is.
Now, I seen on your Instagram, you got a love of hummingbirds, and you said it has something to do with your anxiety. How did you find out about what hummingbirds do for you? And for people who ain't familiar, why do you love them so much? And with that.
Yeah, and so I don't know if you've ever gone through anxiety. I hope that you haven't. But I unfortunately, you know, man, when I was younger, I would see people like freak out, like in anxiety or panic attacks and stuff. And I'll be like, you know, what is wrong with this person? Like they're crazy. Like, what's wrong with them? Like, what's their deal, right? But I was in the subway one day in Brooklyn and I passed out. I was working at Wall Street for a little while. That was fun. And I passed out. And this little Russian lady, real nice Russian lady, that's my homie still to today. She's all my social media. She woke me up and I was like, what in the world happened? She's like, I don't know. So she went with me. She really didn't even, we didn't understand each other. That was the craziest part. But we walked to that emergency room and like that she was there with me through the process until I was okay. But it was my introduction to that panic attack. And, you know, if you know anybody who has anxiety, the first thing they're going to give you is Xanax,
Yep.
Xanax, Xanax,
Yep.
Xanax, you know, and they're trying to give you some kind of antidepressant to like just, you know, take care of their problem for the moment, get rid of you and see you later, hasta la mañana, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, this can't be it, because they gave me like the lowest dosage at the time. And I swear to you, I fell asleep for like 2 days. It was crazy. It was ridiculous. I felt like dumb. I felt like super lost. I felt like I was in a faint. I felt really crazy. And so I have a friend of mine who introduced me to grounding and earthing. And he was like, no, stay away from all those ugly clinical prescribed medications. And I'm going to hook you up with something way better.
Okay.
And I've always been a nature person all my life. And so I haven't looked back since. So I practice a lot of earthing. And I own 8 parrots. I've always been obsessed with birds, though. Everybody tells me, like, oh, you just love birds? I said, yes. I've always been overly, like, I just admire them. Their beauty, that they're just, they sing to you these beautiful songs with no words. It's just the sound. You know, it's a vibe. It's a total vibe. So I do own 9 parrots. And I have large aviaries outside that have them there, and they like free fly with me during the day. And then I do go through 50 to 60 pounds of wild seed a week in my garden, and I feed all the wild birds. You know, I'm from the South. I'm literally the tip of Texas. I'm South Texas. So guess what happens? All these birds come south for the winter, and I get to feed them all. So I'm like, yes, they're my friends. I love them.
Now that's amazing, because I know people that have anxiety, and sometimes anxiety is just you just got too much going on at one time. Like you can't catch up. You need to slow down. And having a bird, just watching the bird and the ease of floating in air, flying. There's no rush. There's no. So I can imagine that. You got a poetry gang celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month that you've been a part of. You know, you're real big on helping your culture. Who are some of the people a part of the poetry gang? And, you know, I mean, what makes you want to continue to be a voice that you are for your Latino culture?
Well, man, there's a really good friend of mine who we become really good friends the past couple of years, and he is like the poetry gang leader. I always tell him, and he doesn't want to admit it. He doesn't even like to acknowledge he's part of the gang, but he's part of the gang. And so I'm like, his name is Daniel Ordaz. He's known as the poet mariachi down here. He's a good friend of mine, really, really amazing spoken word poet as well. Shout out to him. And he is like the leader of it. Like he always has me involved with this and that, or he's the one who puts like all the poets down here in this area kind of together. Like he keeps us together, and he keeps us going and moving and shaking and doing everything for the community. He does a lot of community. He's actually the Poet Laureate for the city of McAllen, Texas down here now, right? And so now I'm doing an event on the 21st because I was nominated for the state of Texas Poet Laureate. I was crying when I got this email. I was freaking out. I'm not gonna lie. I have done some crazy things in my career. Okay. But this one, I don't know, like I just did a TEDx talk on poetry. Congrats. And thank you. And still, man, when you get the email and it has a state of your state, this is state, born and raised Texas, right? Texas made, Texas raised. And so when you get that email with the logo of the state of Texas, I was just like, what? I ran running to my husband. I was like, look what happened. And he was like, what happened? You know, he's from New York. He's from New York. So that's not working for me because he's just real like, okay, you know, like, okay, what are we going to do next? You know, but it was a really amazing. And so that's who I stick it with here. That the leader of the gang is the poet mariachi guy. He's a really good friend of mine. And he is so helpful. When it comes to helpful, I mean, man, I can't explain to you how helpful he is. He's so talented, super. I mean, the knowledge is just there. It's like, okay, imagine, so he is to us down here what KRS is to hip hop.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
You know, it's like, wow, the guy is just super full of knowledge, super humble, really cool, really chill vibe, and he just gets it. So it's amazing that I have him as a friend, to be honest. I'm really thankful.
You mentioned the Texas Poet Laureate. Did you apply to get that, or were they just watching all the dope moves you were making? And then, like you said, when you got that response, what was the first thing that went through your head? You mentioned you're from Texas. You had some struggles growing up. Now your state is recognizing you. Can you go into that emotion that you had when you got that letter?
I would cry again. I don't know, because it's crazy. I'll tell you, listen, I cried. Like, I mean, I'm talking tears of, like, I don't even, I was just crying and talking to my dad, because my dad is no longer with us, right? He passed in 21. And I got the email and I ran outside, and I have like a little memorial for my dad. And I just sat by my dad. Like, it was just too much for me. And I don't even know how it happened, to be honest. I don't know how or where it came about. I just know I got the email, right? And so I'm like, wait, I even asked my husband, like, hey, did you do this? Like, how did you do this? I was like, how did you do this? Like, how does even somebody do this for you? Like, my question, it was a lot of questions going on, right? Yeah. And so at this point, I'm just like, even the fact that I was nominated in the whole state of Texas, right? Because, we're the second largest state in the United States. And so, and everything's bigger in Texas. And so I'm just like, wait, if I don't even know. My husband's like, you need to calm down, because every time we talk about it, are you ready? Like, are you ready? And I was like, what? This is what I've been working my whole life for, like, to represent my state. And so, yeah, I'm just patiently waiting to get it. But either way, the fact that I was nominated itself for me is just like over the top. Yeah.
Now you mentioned your husband a few times. He's a living legend in his own right for what he's done for hip hop and the culture. How did you guys meet, and how great does it feel to have someone like him a part of your journey? Because he's been a part of all the biggest movements we've had so far. So you got a great coach.
Man, yes. When I tell you, he is my man, he I don't even know. Yeah. He is just the most humble person you could meet in the whole industry. I mean, I know a few, right? But this one for sure, I'm just like, I even ask myself, like, how did I get so lucky to get this, this big timer guy? And I'm just a little girl from south of Texas. But how we met was really interesting. A friend of mine who I mentioned earlier, Insane Wayne, God rest his soul. Okay. Insane Wayne was working with his artist in Atlanta. And I lived in Atlanta at the time. I was living in Atlanta. And he's like, yo, sis, I'm not trying to play Cupid because I know how you are already. He said, but this is your guy. This is just your guy. He's like your perfect match. Like, you're like this little Mexican hippie that I don't understand from time to time. And this guy is rock solid, but he doesn't like what I would like. And I'm like, that makes zero sense, right? That makes zero sense. But thank you anyway. So he was like, you have to give him a chance. I'm like, look, don't try to play Cupid on me. Like, this is not going to work. I'm really weird. And he's like, yeah, this is why I'm telling you. I wouldn't tell you any other way. Mm-hmm. And so he pushed it. And here we are 15 years later. 15 years later. It's amazing. And you know what? He has done so much for so many. It's crazy that I'm wearing his shirt now, the Rucker.
I see that,
yeah, Rucker. And so it's amazing. Everything that he's done is amazing. All the things that come out of his head. I'm just like, how do you come up with this stuff? Like, he's like, well, how do you write poetry? I don't know how to do that. And I was like, I've been trying to convince him to write a book, and he's just like, one ear comes out the other. He's like, la, 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 la.
So you're going to have to ghostwrite his book for him. You're just going to have to ask him 10 questions throughout the day when he's not paying attention, and then take your talents, and there you go. You got his book for him.
I feel like he'll do it eventually. I feel like he has to, because it's so much important information for everyone else who wants to do what he's done. And I tell him, I'm like, man, you've done so much for the hip hop culture, for just itself when it comes to the marketing. I mean, this guy for marketing I don't even know how his brain functions. It's crazy. He's got like 20 different little brains in there working all around. And he's helped so many people. So I am really fortunate. 15 years with this man.
So when you first do you guys meet, did you know what he was in the industry, or was he just another average Joe? And then when did you find out he was who he was?
That's funny that nobody's ever asked me that, but that's a really good question. His artist Dirty Den was working with Insane Wayne, and he was like, yeah, I have this friend. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't want to hear it. First of all, I'm not like, no offense, but I'm real into like underground hip hop. Like everything I listen to is real B girl, right? And so you have like all this rap. It wasn't ringing in my ring. Like the ringer wasn't there, you know? Yes. And so I was like, no, it's not gonna work out. He's like a rapper guy. Like, no, it's not gonna work out. It's just not. And so I knew that he worked with artists, and that's all I knew.
Yeah, you knew he did artists. Yeah.
So when we went out for the first date, it was just like, I told him, I said, hey, look, I'm from the freaking country. This is what we're going to do. And I told him, this is what we're having. We had like the most simple day. We ate tacos, we drank wine, and we chilled. But then I started like knowing, I was like, oh my God, so what do you do? Like, I don't understand everything you do. I can't keep up. Yeah. But he liked the fact that I also was doing a lot of work for like at the time for like Telemundo commercials. I had my own radio show myself at the time with La Patrona 107.5. So he was like, well, we're both kind of like in the same world. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I don't, you know, we tried, but here we are. It's been amazing, an amazing situation.
Now you mentioned TED Talk, amazing accomplishment. I don't know how many poetry people have been a part of a TED Talk, but what was your experience like? And was that one of your biggest? Was that a goal of yours? You know, because I gotta imagine in your lane, that's a pretty high honor. So was that something you were striving for, or once again, did it just come for you?
Here goes the poet mariachi. The poet mariachi, Daniel, sends me an email because they were going to do the one here locally in my area. Okay. So he was like, hey, I have something for you. Look into it. And I was like, okay. So I looked into it. He goes, you should do this. And I was like, how is, you know, when you're from where I'm from, you don't see things like it's going to happen. It's not, more than likely it's not going to happen. You know, let's just be honest, right? And so when I submitted my application, I was like, okay, like, let me just submit my application. Let me do this, whatever, right? And when you're doing what you're doing, you don't pay attention to what you've done, right? And so it kind of just like compiles, and you're just like back and forth. I know I've done a lot of stuff because I love to work, and so it's something I enjoy. And so then you look at it and you're like, wait, oh yeah, I've done this and this and this and this and this and this, and it added up. So I was like, oh, okay. So when I got the email from TEDx, I was like, oh my God, I'm one of them. I got selected, and I was freaking out that I got selected. I didn't see that one coming at all, and I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't know I was going to do something like this. I saw a lot of TED Talks. I just didn't know I was ever going to do one myself. Okay. So I did it October 29th, this like 2 weeks ago or so. I did it October 29th. I'm not gonna lie, it was something like, wow, like, wait, I'm in this little red carpet, you know, and this is happening, and this is what's going on. And the whole conversation was poetry based on anxiety and how I've been selecting my dosage of medicine on a day-to-day basis, which is great. And I always tell people things happen the way they happen and the way it should, and I just let it flow, and that's just how it is. And that's what happened. It just happened.
So now that you've had that experience, is that something you're wanting to take on the road, like keep going around the country, or, you know, keep pushing that way, or you more want to keep focused on what you're building with the books and stuff you're doing in Texas?
I mean, I would love to. Of course, like no one's going to turn down if TEDx or TED anything to do with TED. If they email you, you're going to be there. Because the experience is amazing. The experience I had down here specifically was amazing. It was 12 weeks. Okay. And every Saturday we were meeting with coaches, and they were kind of coaching you through like what they expect for you to do the day of, right? And you know what's crazy?
So you get trained in how to do it the right way.
You do get trained. It's a full-on training, and it's like you go to class every Saturday and you're there. And well, at least for us in this area, it was this way, right? And so we had a coach. The coaches were amazing. They were very patient because there were so many different type of arts combined, right? Like it was a lot going on. I was the only one who did poetry, but there was something everywhere. So imagine them having to deal with like 14 different personalities. It's a lot. And so it was an amazing experience for me personally. Would I love to do it again? Most definitely. Now I say things happen the way you can train for something. You can go ride a bike 20 years and then you get in a new bike and then you fall. It happens, right? That's what happened to me the day of. I feel like I got on the stage and then I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. So I like messed up and went back and then messed up and went back. I feel like it had to have happened because my anxiety kind of brought that into me that specific date. So,
well, but if that was the whole point of the conversation, that was a perfect example of how you got over the anxiety. Like anxiety tried to stop you, but you were able to overcome anxiety live on the spot. So I'm sure they had to clap for that and, love what you presented.
It's funny that you said that because when I got off the stage, this is what happened. Two young ladies and actually a lot more after, but the minute I got off the stage, two of them came to me. They're like, oh my God, did you stage that? I was like, what? Like, I felt so dumb. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, wait, what? What do you mean I staged it? She's like, no, did you stage that? Because it was just perfect. Like the whole vibe was perfect. I was like, oh no, I didn't stage it. I actually messed up. But thank you for like correcting it. Thank you for covering up for me because I did mess up, girl. And she was like, no, I love that you messed up. Like it went with the whole thing that you said. And I was like, okay, I did feel a little better. I'm not gonna lie. It helped me out. But
now you've mentioned a lot of books tonight. Where can people go get your material? Like if they want to go get something for their kids or they want to go get the poetry, you got the daily dosage. Like where can we go get all your dope material?
So some of the Barnes and Nobles will have some of the stuff. I know for sure locally here. I don't know anywhere else. I was told somewhere in Arizona too, but for sure Amazon. Anybody can go find me on Amazon. I'm all over Amazon there. And then of course I have the link in like my bio and everything. So it's just there with everything there. Every single book that I've written is on there.
Now you've highlighted a lot of dope stuff tonight. What's one of your personal moments throughout your career, either in the music, either in poetry, either in helping what's one moment that you remember that stands out to you?
For me, it was going back. I think that in all my career, it was going back. When I came from Brooklyn back to Texas, when that principal that had expelled me 3 times came up to me and he's like, hey, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. Going back to the same school that shaped me who I am now was vital for me because it was like me reconnecting that it's completely okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay with that. I'm okay that I wasn't okay for a long time. And I'm okay still if I'm not okay, because that's what we are. We're human, and humans are to err. Humans are to do certain things messy. It's a human thing to do that. And it's okay for you not to have a filter at all times. And so for me, it was the coming back to my city. And that's what it is. Coming and helping with those kids at the school. That to me was that moment for me in all my career.
That's amazing. Now, do you have any advice for someone who either is an author who's trying to write their first book or somebody who loves making poetry but doesn't know how to make it a career? Like any advice you would give them?
Definitely self-publishing. I wouldn't go any other way. Why? Because in a push of a button, you handle your business. And so a lot of people forget that when you do self-publishing, you can go and you can push your business. Like this example, like for me, I go into the school systems, and I've been very fortunate that the schools have opened their doors to me and they say, hey, Amanda, we need such and such amount of books. They order 400, 300, 400, 200, 250 here. And then by the time you know it, you're building your own business. And, when I first started going to the schools, they were giving me the per diem. And then I was going and I was selling 10 books. That was it. The 10 books was a gift to the kids per class. Or session, right? Like we would ask them questions, if they answered it, they would get a book, right? And then you build it. And so definitely it's to self-publish. If you're going to get started and you want to make sure, and you have that control to be able to say, hey, buy my book, do this, do that, or let me order some books, let me go put myself in this book event, or do like we have author cons down here. We go to author con and you put books there and you sell them, and you do poetry pieces. We do poetry live. So definitely is that. Look into that, and definitely don't wait on it. Don't wait.
Yeah.
If you have something to say it, because somebody else is waiting for you to say what you have to say.
Facts. That's why a lot of times, even if you're a quiet person and you have a gift or a talent, you got to talk. I'm a quiet person. I'm usually behind the scenes, but I have to help people tell their stories. So you have to get out here and talk like this. Now, do you have any upcoming events or releases or anything we can circle on the calendar for you to make sure we support when it happens?
Well, I'm waiting for the TED link.
Okay.
I was super excited about this. I'm waiting for the TED link and just for them to post the actual TED Talk. Yeah. And then on November 21st, God willing, I will be here locally at this place, like a little cafe, because they're excited. The poet Mariachi is excited to say, like, hey, I am nominated for the state of Texas Poet Laureate. So I'll be doing that on the 21st. And then I do have another event set for February. They're trying to take me to California also for like the Boys and Girls Club, but they haven't set me the date on that. So it's pretty neat. Anything you're doing like at risk, I'm there. Like we're all at risk, all of us. Yeah. That's what it is. And so that's where I'm at.
Now, we mentioned one of your team members, your husband, the legend. Who are some of the other team members that help your operation, and how important is a team to you?
Everybody says, I don't really like when people say, like, I'm self-made. I've never liked when anybody says self-made. Yeah. Nobody is self-made. First of all, it took two people. You know what I mean? So that's already a mess up, right? But in addition, I feel like there's no such thing at all. You have to have a solid team. Solid team, like my husband, he was a mentor, my good friend and business partner, Gary, like he was a heavy mentor. He's the one who opened up my eyes in the business perspective. Like, hey, no, kid, you're doing this wrong. You're doing this the wrong way. Sometimes it takes somebody to sit you down and say, hey, no offense, but you're doing it the wrong way. And I feel like sometimes people do get offended with anything. And sometimes that is the exact same thing you actually need for that growth. That part that's going to be that initial growth for you, that initial opening door to say, hey, there's a door. I'm going to help you a little open it. So my team is crazy. My best friend of my whole life. I've known her since I was 12 years old. I seriously can't go a day without her. It's crazy. Okay. I call her and she's like my main support system. My husband, my kids are like my best friend. And then a bunch of friends, like it's crazy. It's crazy that the people that you have around you, and they always say like, it's the energy you keep is the energy you're going to keep giving, and it's right, because you're surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals that not only are trying to help you out, but also correct you when you're a little down or where you're messing up a little. And it's okay to take that criticism, because very much that criticism is necessary for you to be able to amplify whatever it is that you're trying to stabilize in a longevity standing point. So it's okay to take that. I feel like a lot of people, that's a little time where they kind of get off that train rail. Like, oh no, homeboy said, but that's okay. They're trying to correct you for the better for yourself. So
sometimes the best criticisms you get is what will change your life if you open your mind to what they tell you. Like, so many times people get mad because you tell them you need to fix this, but I'm telling you to fix it because I see where you go next. And if you can't, you're not going to get there unless you do this one small thing. So I definitely agree with that. Outside of writing poetry, helping kids the way you do, what do you like to do for fun if you got some downtime and you're just chilling at home with your husband?
I paint. I'm a painter. Cool. I love to paint. Yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I don't really do. I do a lot of arts and crafts. My husband says I watch too much Hallmark. I agree. I do. I don't know. And then I'll be crying too with the Hallmark movies. And then I can't stand when he comes into the room because he'll be like, let me take a wild guess. The girl left the town, came back to the town, married her childhood love. Like, that's what's happening, right? And I would be like, don't ruin the movie, please. Like, so I get a lot of my arts and crafts from Hallmark. I won't lie. I'll say it. I'm in love with Hallmark. I love everything Hallmark. I just feel like it's such a safe thing for everything. Like, I can watch it with my kids and it's cute. it's a safe place for me. And I hate horror movies. I hate them. Oh my God, this is not me. It's not me at all.
Yeah.
I was raised with La Chancla. That's enough horror.
Yeah, it's not for you.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to do all that extra stuff. But yes, downtime is acrylic. I get a paintbrush and I literally, as you can see, I'm a little written on. And so I love art. I love art. I love it. Everything for it.
Now, you mentioned Hallmark. Have you ever thought about creating a card line? You know, you get a dope poetry, dope artist, dope creative, like maybe partnering with them or creating your own cards.
I would love it. Yeah. I tried it maybe 4 years ago or so. I tried to create a couple of cards. I don't know what happened that fell apart in the middle of it. I was trying to do exactly what you just said, which is amazing that you said that. But yes, I would love to. That would be really, really cool. Aside from me getting the key to my city, that's definitely in my list. I really would love to create funny, really cute, poetic little symbols or little cards, something like in a miniature form, because I have this thing with like miniature little dolls and miniature water globes and all that stuff with miniature. So it's something that you could just pocket and keep and just leave it there, you know, that doesn't take too much space and it is a space saving situation. That would be cute. So yeah, that's definitely something I would love to do.
I definitely see that in your future for you. So I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you tonight. Anything else you want to make sure we mention or discuss before we get out of here?
No, that's about it. Thank you so much. Just really light up a candle because I'm really nervous about this state situation. I really am. It's, you know, it's like when you go to the sneaker store and you really want those sneakers, but the price tag is real off. You're just like, oh my God, I need those sneakers because we're all sneakerheads. And so it's the same thing. I need this. I'm just like, man, it's just, I don't even know how.
Is this something your fans can comment on their page? Is it like a voting situation or anything like that? Like if we get Sincere to hit a quick PR campaign and we all say, give you the state, will that help you? Or is it more their own type of voting thing?
I have no idea. Because I don't even know what happened, right? And so like I don't know the process is what I'm saying. I wouldn't even know like the process of it all and how that would work, to be honest, because
we'll click this up for you. We'll hashtag it, put it around the internet for you to tell you, make you get the state. And they're going to be like, oh, we got to give it to her. She's got too many. She got 1 million people saying do it. So we got to. But like I said, it's an honor to have this conversation with you tonight. I hope you have a great night.
Likewise, you too. Stay safe.
Salute.
Bye.
Peace.